They're very mean, aren't they?
They are mean.
I'm so glad I got you into this.
Jesus, well, I'm not.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Marian.
Eilís and Mary.
That's right.
Okay. So thanks very much. So what we'll do is just quickly, we'll go through the three of you first of all. I know two of your sisters.
Yeah.
So Marian, we'll start with you. Tell us about your family. How they arrived in Tramore, or what's their background?
My family are only from 3 miles, my mum and dad, 3 miles out the road, Fenner. My mum was from Fenner. They had a farm, her parents, not a big farm now, but they had animals, cows and sheep and chickens and all that sort of thing. And then about a mile away from that, there was a road, Island Tarsney, I think it's called, and my dad was from there. And I suppose my mum and dad never really talked about how they met. I wouldn't know an awful lot about my background, really, as we speak today. But they did meet. There was a lot of dances because my mum's house was a social house, and that's where everybody gathered. And they'd have dances on the crossroads and all that type of thing. And I suppose they just met there. My father would have, he had, I think, 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Only one of those sisters actually moved away to Dublin, and she met her husband there and lived her life out there. We've never ventured very far. They never ventured. I don't think my mother was ever on a plane. I don't think she ever travelled anywhere, or my dad. And then they lived out by Fenner for the first few years of their marriage, and then they moved into Tramore, and we lived on Priest Road.
And what was the names of the family?
Phelan would be my mother. Christine Phelan was my mum's name, and William Doyle was my dad.
Okay. And with yourselves, could you tell us about your family background?
Yeah. Well, mum and dad. My father came from a place called Knock Ennis, County Clare. And he came from there was a good few children in that house. We'll go through the names afterwards. But he wanted to study medicine, so he went to Dublin. And he went to college in Dublin, where he met my mum. And he was staying in digs in Cabra Park. And her brothers were doing medicine at the same time. So they that's how they met up in Dublin.
And what was their family background?
My grandfather was a teacher. He was a school teacher, and he was also he owned an exchange as well. You know, the telephone exchange. We used to love going down there as children, putting in and out the plugs, joining and listening into conversations.
They had no electricity there when we would have had electricity in Tramore, but the rural electrification hadn't reached Knock in County Clare when we were children.
Yeah.
So we would have gone up there to candles and everything. You know, it was strange. Yeah.
But there was a good few. There was about 5 of them in that. I'll have to go. How many children?
I don't know how many children. I can remember the names.
You can remember them afterwards.
But then their name, Dad's name was Twomey, and then Mum was Mar. And she was from Cabra Park in Dublin, but her father was from a place called Holy Cross in Tipperary. He was
Sonny Mars. He would be a cousin of Sonny Mars, who was seemingly as a famous hurler.
Yes, that's our claim to fame.
Yeah, but, and he became.
He was a detective sergeant in the
chief superintendent.
Sorry,
in Dublin Castle.
Dublin Castle. That was his job. So my grandfather, our grandfather.
Yeah.
And then where did Tramore come into?
Well, my uncle, one of my father's brother, came on honeymoon to Tramore and stayed down in the house opposite Tramore House down there. And Dad at the time had qualified, and he was looking for a job. So he said,
Uncle
Oliver said, "Come on down here. There's a lovely place
down here."
Yeah. So it happened that Bunmahan was the nearest place dispensary that he could get. But my mother said no. Having come from Dublin, living in a place, she wasn't
no way.
So they bought a house here in St. Leger for £960 at the time, and moved there. Mm-hmm. and had
They didn't
7
know
of us.
anybody then?
No,
No.
they didn't know anybody here at all.
No.
They just
But
honeymoon.
it was during the war years. They got married in 1941,
41.
and the only people who had petrol, who could get petrol and have cars,
Were doctors.
were the doctors and the priests. So he had a car, you know. But
He used to
Mum used to talk about when they got married in Dublin. It was like moving to another planet, because she left Dublin and would have taken them maybe 2 or 3 days to get to Tramore,
Yeah.
because it was like
Oh, it's in the sticks.
Yes, of
in the
course,
sticks so
sticks,
far away.
yeah.
And her father cried bitterly because, you know, it was such an ordeal. He probably thought he'd never see
her
her
again.
you
Yeah,
know.
it was like
Yeah,
going off
yeah,
to America.
yeah.
From Australia.
It was strange.
And
That's it.
then, what was her first impressions of Tramore?
She liked
Oh,
Tramore.
she loved
Tramore.
Tramore, yeah.
From the
She
day
loved
she set foot in Tramore, and she involved herself, engrossed
Everything,
herself in
yeah.
everything. Whatever my father wasn't in, my mother was in.
Yeah.
You know, she was a founder member of the Tramore ICA, but you
was
know,
the director of
the director of
Tramore
Tramore
Fáilte.
Fáilte.
She was,
She did
very
loads of things like
involved,
that, all that, and she was very involved in the school and the
Schools
schools of
when we were
work
older.
when we were growing up. She was really totally Tramore.
Yeah.
And just one other question about your family then. Like, to study medicine would be very unusual way back. Do you know what I mean? Like, nowadays people get to university.
Yeah.
It's quite common
Yeah.
for people to do leaving cert and
Yeah.
go off to university and that. But in those days it wasn't.
Well, my grandfather was very progressive in lots
Yes.
of ways. But when you made your decision up, that was it. There was no change in it. If you wanted to do, say, become a secretary, that's what you did, and that's
Yes.
what you did for the rest of your life.
Right.
But granddad Michael Twomey, he raised a priest.
Well, no, the eldest
The eldest
was a
Solicitor.
He was a solicitor.
The next
He
was a
priest.
priest, a few females secretaries in the.
Yeah,
And
then
then
there was
was
2
two doctors.
and the youngest son was left on the farm.
Yeah,
They
for
had
Uncle
a-
Brendan was
yeah,
left on
they
the
had
farm.
and the post office.
And and the other side of the family, my mum's family, she had 3 brothers,
brothers.
and 2 of those were doctors,
Doctors, yeah.
and mum was there, and then Uncle Joe did something in
The
newspapers.
He
in
was,
London.
he was a critic, a literary critic.
Literary critic.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start then with your memories. Marian, let's start with you then. Like, what's your earliest memory of Tramore?
That's kind of a hard question now.
Yeah, remember now.
Remember we're
we
here.
remember now.
No, it is a
We used to
difficult
play as
question.
children.
Yeah, right. Well, I was
yeah,
thinking
maybe
about
some
going.
context.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. We both. They lived on St. Ledger, and we lived in the next house, so we were buddies. Now, I wouldn't say I was really a buddy with Mary. Eilís was more my friend. Really, we hung around a
Tormented.
bit more.
I was
Different
always
way.
a bit older.
Yeah, and we used to have wonderful games.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a little chalet at
the
the
back.
back of our house, and we used to be down there.
Sweeping it and making house.
Oh, it was
pretending
our
his
house, and I had a best friend who lived beside me, and she's still my one of my best friends. And we used to go
Patricia Ann
around,
Fitzgerald.
weren't we?
Patricia
Yeah.
Ann Fitzgerald.
We used to go everywhere. Like, people thought we were sisters because we were never apart, really, were we? But we'd be out in the night time playing. Do you remember the skipping rope?
Yeah.
And how many people, you know, when those old games, how many people are going to go to your funeral?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know. And hopscotch, Tig,
Yeah.
Cowboys and Indians, all those wonderful games. And then just down from the terrace, there was a tiny little laneway. It's still there now, but in the old days, Mr. Spencer had his tomato glass houses, and there was lovely fields around it, so we were able to play around there or whatever. We had fantastic freedom. The big houses across the road then had big, huge gardens, didn't
At
they?
the back, way
at the back. But that was another world altogether. It was just fantastic place to grow up.
And would you have stayed around your own little area?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Except for the swimming.
Well, no,
Swimming.
sorry.
We spend
yeah.
our summers in
We,
the pier.
Well, the pier was our place. I know it's Newtown Cove now for all the young people, but we used to go to the pier in the morning. We'd come home for lunch.
When you're hungry.
We'd go
You only
back
went
at
home
2 o'clock. We'd stay there until dinner time, and then we'd come back for our dinner, and then we'd go back over there maybe until 10 o'clock, you know,
Yeah,
when
all
you
the
were
time.
over there swimming. There was never any hassle. Your mother was never worried about you. We were always together,
Yeah,
weren't
we
we?
were always around.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the swimming was fantastic. My parents couldn't afford to get swimming lessons. There was a man called Justin
O'Mahony.
and he was the swimming instructor. And I would sit on the top of the pier and watch what he was teaching the kids. So anyway, that was grand. And there was the first steps, the middle steps, and the deep steps. And now you were a fantastic swimmer if
We went
you
to
could
the
go
end
at
step.
the end step. Now diving I could never do, or jumping off, because I always had the fear of kind of going under the water. But unfortunately what happened one of the summers was I was out swimming away in the last steps. I decided I'd take a little break, so I held onto a rope because there would be boats there. So I held onto the rope. But you know the way sometimes when you're swimming you need to kind of lift yourself on something just to get you up in the water again. Next thing was my foot touched off the slimy rope. I thought, of course, it was a shark or something, needless to say, being dramatic. And I started drowning. I literally was starting to drown. And here was my friend Patricia, and she waving and all the rest. And she was talking to some guys up on the top. And I think then she discovered, I think Marian's in trouble. So a guy had to come out and rescue me. And no, it probably was. It could have been a tragedy, but it didn't turn out to be that way. But what happened then was I really was scared. And I thought, well, I can't be coming over here in the summer now, not swimming. So I had to go back to the first steps again and just maybe go to my waist and learn. And then the second steps. And by the end of the summer, then I was back out swimming over my depth again. But it was an absolutely fantastic place. And then we had the foil. Do you remember the foil?
we had the foil.
The foil. No, you can't go to the foil anymore. It's
The steps are all gone.
Yeah, it's off.
It's between the pier.
It's on the
and
Donerail.
beach.
Yeah. Now there's about 40, well, it seemed like 140 steps. And you were fine going down, but coming up with your swimming gear and you'd be tired and maybe a bit hungry. Oh, getting up those steps and walking home or whatever. But
We had the tennis club as
Yeah.
well.
just a beach, like a little tiny
cove.
little private cove, and you'd swim there or whatever.
Mum used to bring us when we were kids there because it was
Yeah.
away from the
Hurdy-gurdies.
and you
Not
wouldn't
much
have to mind
hurdy-gurdies.
children so
Yeah.
much then. And
Yes,
we were very
and,
young.
and the beach, Mary, wasn't that absolutely fantastic? When our parents, again, we wouldn't have a car now, so you'd maybe have a pram or whatever, and you'd be walking down the beach. Your mother would have the bottle of pop, orange lemonade, you know, the one that, you know, would maybe stain your mouth. Now, it didn't seem to in those days, but it certainly does now. And the sandwiches with the sand in the sandwiches, but they were fantastic.
Of course they were.
And you would swim,
All day. We were out all day.
We were out all day.
just the whole day.
We were
and you'd
thrown
be-
out in the morning and yeah.
Well, you just
But can
didn't
you
want
remember
to go home.
Sorry, for
Sorry,
interrupting
Eilís,
you. Do
sorry.
you remember the skipping rope? And we were called in for the rosary. Do you remember?
Oh, that's another experience.
We were started
Every night.
we were
Well, I'll
called
tell
in
you
for
my
the rosary,
experience
and that
of
was
the
the end of the
rosary,
night. It was
because
terrible.
it
I
was-
swore I'd never have a rosary in my
Well,
house.
it was the Twomeys, Mrs. Twomey, Lord have mercy on her, but Mrs. Twomey, yes, Marian, yes, they had a television, first television on the road, right? Probably one of the first few people to have a television
ourselves
in
and
Tramore.
Conley's pub.
Now, I now wear glasses, but in those days I didn't have glasses and I didn't want to have glasses, right? So anyway, Mrs. Twomey would say, no, we have to say the rosary. And it's 5 sorrowful mysteries. What are they? You know, you might have to get a little hint because we weren't maybe over religious or whatever. And we'd say the rosary, the whole lot of us down on our knees, and then the treat afterwards was
On the television.
the television, and there was something built, and it was quite high.
It is still there.
Quite high.
Still
It's
there.
still there.
Yeah.
Quite high. Sure, I couldn't see a thing. All I could see was this box. I hadn't a clue what.
Because of bad eyesight.
Yeah, bad eyesight. And that was another story I can tell you about how I discovered how bad my eyesight was.
Well, back to you in a minute, but
Yeah.
let's go to 2E now. Eilís, what was your earliest memory? of Tramore?
Just the beach and the freedom and climbing trees. We used to go down to Lawton's. There was a field beside us too, off Priest Road. It was Neddy's field. There was always a donkey in it. But there was a row of trees, and we'd start at one end and swing our way
I forgot about
the
that.
whole way across. Yeah, the Lawtons. It was great. Yeah.
And what about, do you remember when you went to primary school first?
Oh, we did. Yeah. Yeah.
What was that?
Going back, sorry, just a minute, then going back to the earliest memories. One of my earliest memories would have been the procession. Do you remember the Corpus Christi?
The processions,
yes.
The Corpus Christi procession, because Dad was in the Order of Malta,
Yes.
and this uniform would come down from the
It had to be dusted off.
from the wardrobe,
grey,
the
wasn't
back of
it?
the wardrobe.
Yeah.
It'd
Yeah,
be in the
grey.
back of the wardrobe, and in those days they had these camphor,
Yeah.
or the camphor, I think,
Yes.
little white things, and the smell in the kitchen
Yeah.
of this uniform hanging up. It'd be aired like for a couple of days before the procession would come on for
Yeah.
Corpus
Yeah.
Christi. So Corpus Christi would come along, and we'd be sent out to get. We'd have to have petals
That's right.
for the baskets
Yeah.
to go in front of the host, you see,
Yeah.
as it's going along. So we'd be sent out to gather up the flowers, and this big
Procession.
palaver about it. And I can remember the uniform hanging, and I can remember going up, and the whole procedure of the. Do you remember
Yes.
of
They had
the
a canopy.
procession, like
The
the
canopy
whole
and
canopy up over the priest, and
Yeah.
you'd be in front of, and the nuns would have us in training, like how to go before and do this. And
Yes,
church
we were the
and
little angels.
And you're in to
And
put the
actually-
petals down before the host came.
Mary, wasn't the mass down here?
Outside the priest. Outside
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was
wasn't
a
it
walk all
here?
the way. And going down Patrick Street, there was a big banner across Patrick Street. Welcome. My
Jesus.
father used to say, "Welcome Jesus to Patrick Street." He probably didn't say that, but it was probably "Welcome Jesus" or something. But he used to always say,
yeah.
"Welcome Jesus to Patrick Street." But this big banner was going
Yeah.
across Patrick Street, "Welcome Jesus," whatever. And every window would have
Oh, yeah, the sacred
flowers,
flowers,
the
yeah.
altar that you would
Yeah.
pass by.
And the
one trying
poles.
to- and the
A lot of the
poles,
poles
everything,
would have
yeah.
the flowers,
But I can
flowers
remember as a very
arranged,
small
yeah.
child, all this preparation beforehand.
Yeah.
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 So it
And
was-
did you like it as a child? Did you
Oh
like it?
yes, yeah,
Lord,
we used to
oh,
love
God.
it. Yeah, it was
Where else
great.
would you live?
Yeah, going
Yeah.
out
Yes,
and
'cause
walking
you
on
know,
the streets, like, and there was no
we used to never wear
traffic or
shoes.
anything.
We
Yeah,
remember
no.
we never wore shoes.
No, you didn't. 'cause
No, we
were
never
good
wore
feet.
shoes.
Yeah.
In the summertime, we'd throw off the shoes.
Your
Was
dad
that a
used to
West of
say
Ireland
that.
thing, or was that a kind
No,
of
just comfort. We
Yeah.
never.
We were never
We're
encouraged
wild.
to be weird. I suppose, yeah. My mother never had. Other people probably would say, "Oh God, you better put on your shoes." People think that the doctor's children that we
No,
can't afford to
can't
put
afford
shoes
to
on.
put
She
shoes, no.
didn't worry about what other people
Nobody
said.
thought.
Nobody worried. So
No.
they didn't. Neither of them did. We were
No.
given all sorts of freedom.
Freedom, yeah.
And then about primary school, have you any memories
Yes,
of it?
primary school. Remember Miss
remember-
Marr?
Oh, I remember Miss Marr, but I remember our prize was the crumbs from
crumbs.
the nuns.
Oh,
Which
in
is-
the black
Do you remember
box.
that in the black
That was
box?
Mrs.
In a
Ryan's
beautiful
hat. That was
black tin.
She had the
Cake crumbs.
No, what's the Scots clan she always gave us.
no, she- Mrs.
But they
Ryan
used to
had
give us a
cake crumbs.
prize, and they would be the crumbs from the. There was a cake
yeah.
tin, and she'd go,
that's
you get a
literally-
spoonful into your hand, and that
Yeah.
was your prize.
Yeah, and we
Do you
were
remember that?
delighted with
We
it.
were thrilled, because
Yeah.
it was always a mixture.
Yeah, because in those days we never had bought cake. It
I was always
No,
in
no,
trouble at
shop
school,
cake.
so you
Shop
can move
cake
on.
was a
Move on
Move
different
on from
thing
the
than home
school.
cake,
I was
you know.
always in trouble
Yeah.
at school.
No, but it was a nice school, and I remember a lot of us, I don't think they would now, but a lot, well, I certainly was quite traumatised at the thought of going to secondary school, because you're very safe in primary school, and
Yeah.
I liked the teacher we had. You know, you'd have the one teacher,
teacher,
Mrs. Power Miss Power, was lovely. She was really nice. But I do remember an incident. We were in 6th class, and we had encyclopedias, because of course there was no Google then. So the encyclopedias were down at the end of the room, and children being, what you know yourself, curious, they had a section, medical section, and we'll say it was the skeletal, and then you had all the different layers, of all the different things like muscles and veins and everything. So we were curious because there was male and female. So anyway, something was taken out of one of the pages. Would anyone own up? No. Nobody knew anything about it. They never found out who it was or whatever. But some of the pages or
Is
certain
this,
anatomy was
is this
taken.
where you're going to admit to it now? Is it?
Oh, no, it definitely wasn't me. It definitely wasn't me. But I have a fair idea who it
You
was.
don't think it was an onset?
I'm saying nothing.
said-
My lips are sealed. I'm saying nothing.
Not on
But
camera.
another thing I was going to tell you about that story about the eyesight. Now, I went through all of primary as blind as a bat. Well, that's my excuse why I didn't turn out to be a genius. But anyway, a nurse had come, a doctor and a nurse, right? And you'd have your examination.
Owen Maughan's dad.
Well, I can't
He
remember.
was
who it
Dr.
was
Maughan.
actually.
Dr.
Was it
Owen Maughan,
Dr.
yeah,
Maughan?
Dr.
Anyway,
Maughan.
Yeah.
so anyway,
He would have been the
you
same.
checked out or whatever, everything, weight, height, blah, 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 and all the rest. So anyway, one of the things was you get your eyes tested. So we'll say I'm here and the wall is, and the little screen with the big A and all the letters that you have now in the opticians. So I thought, well, I don't want to wear glasses. No way. So anyway, I went up while the nurse had disappeared for a few minutes and memorised all the letters. So anyway, she said, all right now, Marian, now tell me what you can see there. So I said A, B, blah, 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 and all the rest. And then she turned around and said, well, aren't you absolutely fantastic? Full marks, Marian, because not only have you got them all wrong, but you've actually read through the board. She had turned it, there was two, and I hadn't seen her turn it. So I got none of them. She said, can you see anything? And I said, no. So I had to get glasses, and I remember going into Mr. McGrath at the time on the quay, and I'm afraid in those days there was no such thing now as, because my prescription is quite strong, they were like milk bottles, unfortunately. So when I got them, came out of Mr. McGrath's. I've never actually seen the world before that. I knew there was another side of the river, but I had never seen it. The pavement I thought was coming up to meet me. And it was absolutely
Magical.
Yeah, it was magical to be able to see. But I hated, I have to say, I hated wearing the glasses. I hated it. I always did. I never
Did you
liked
get
it.
called lots of names then eventually?
No, never. I actually never
Well able to stand up for
was never called any names,
No.
and I don't really
there was
remember a
none.
lot of bullying.
No, there was
in
not
our
much bullying
in our school
school.
now, to be honest.
Everybody was.
Or even in secondary school, because we had a fabulous secondary school. Like it was like a big house.
But the numbers were much smaller.
They were
In
smaller.
fairness, now when we were going to school, like by the time you got to the primary cert, which it was
Yes.
then, nearly half the class then disappeared.
Yeah.
They went off
True.
working in
True,
factories.
true.
Like we were
Yeah.
12 years of age.
Yeah.
And we got the opportunity to go to secondary school,
Yeah.
which was huge. Like for
Oh,
a
it
lot
was
of
great.
people, it was huge.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just went off and worked in shops.
Yeah.
And they worked in factories.
Yeah.
And they were taken out, worked on farms or whatever they had to do.
You know, I
I
suppose.
mean, I suppose that was the divide between, working class and middle class, I suppose, in the sense that some kids had to leave or
Well, yes,
families-
because
But
they
it
had to
was the thing.
contribute to the
Yeah, they had
house.
to contribute to the house.
That's why they let. It's not that the
That's why I
parents-
say we were very
Yeah.
fortunate.
Yeah.
And if
We
you got
were.
if you went on to the next one, that was really huge. But I mean, when we went to secondary school, our class was about maybe 16 or 18, maybe 20.
Yeah.
Maybe not much. I can't remember it being
There were
much
12
more.
Yeah, I
in
think
my
we-
leaving cert
12 in
class.
her
Yeah,
leaving
and
Did you
cert.
go
We
to
had
Waterford for a second?
No,
No.
there was secondary in Tramore.
Yeah.
Stella Mars.
Yeah,
Stella
Stella
Mars.
Mars, beautiful
Yeah.
school.
Okay.
Beautiful school.
We were
actually.
lucky because
Yeah.
our siblings went away. The top, we was to think there were visitors coming home at the summer because they were sent off to school. Brother went
Yeah.
to Rossgrey and two of them went up to Dublin,
Yeah.
to Eilís Street in Dublin and Skull Katrina. They're the same school, but one, yeah,
So
that's
they
what
were
they did.
borders, right?
They were
Yeah.
boarders, yeah. They went off, three of them went
Yeah.
off as boarders. But my mother I think she wanted us all at home.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there wasn't.
And do you have any memory of the Tramore train?
Oh yeah, I remember the
train,
Tramore
yeah.
train, yeah.
So tell us what you remember.
Oh, what do I remember? Well, I'd be afraid to say too much because, like, it's 90. When was it? When did it crash? It was.
I will have no dates.
I have no dates, but I can remember getting on it, and I can remember going
Yeah.
into the railway station in
Yes.
town and the excitement of getting off. It
Yes.
was lovely.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Mum used to go to Dublin. She was on the executive committee on the ICA, and she used to go off to Dublin on the train, and Dad and Martha's down then to meet her off
We
the
meet her
train.
off
Yeah,
the train.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he liked us to walk everywhere. He didn't like collecting us in the car, even though he had a car. We'd walk to school, but he'd never, even if it was lashing rain,
If it was
he'd never.
piddling out of the run.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he'd come and
Can't say
no,
that word on camera.
sorry, I didn't. Who said that?
I don't.
Did I say that?
There's
Did I
a
say
cut.
that out loud?
There's a cut anyway.
Did I say that out loud?
Reasons or what was it?
I don't know. I suppose he might have been just too mean to. I don't know. Maybe
No,
he had-
I
think
he
just
probably was
every-
healthy.
He was a
walked.
countryman at heart,
Yeah.
and my mother,
Yeah.
even though she was in Dublin, I mean, she could pluck her own turkeys and
Yeah.
gut her own fish and do all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Like she was a real
They were
countrified.
I think anybody that went through the
Through the
war,
war.
they were very thrifty people.
Yeah.
You know, having gone through the war, you know, they just.
I mean, there were still things now in our lives now we would never tell my mother, you know, because
That's just a generation.
is
thing.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And your mother
I'm sure
was
your
Eilís.
children
I
do
remember.
Your
and
children
this-
do things too,
I
and they
know,
won't
but-
tell you.
I know, but I find out.
No,
if
I
it's
have-
small enough
You
to
think
tell
you
you,
will,
find
but you
out.
won't.
I remember their house. I loved going into their house because their house was a big house. And at Christmas, they would have the Christmas tree upstairs. And I think your mother actually made the carpet.
Oh no, sorry, hold on a second now, hold on. No,
was
go
a
back.
kitchen.
No, we all contributed to making that.
And then the carpet.
We had to,
what
we
you
had to
call
make
it,
the
rug
carpet.
plan.
Hook rug. Hook rug.
Yeah.
It was, it was a hook
You
rug.
bought the kit, but anyway.
No, but we
the,
did
the
it.
one on the stairs was a stitched rug.
That
Yeah,
was
but-
done over
But the
sacking.
one up in the
Yeah,
upstairs
yeah, the
room, that
good
was
room.
all done with a hook.
We got, was it a shilling we got for a big square?
Yeah.
We had
It was
to-
All the
beige.
carpets. She
Was
made
it
all the
beige?
all
carpets
the
in the
carpets.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Still
beige.
there, I'll tell
Is
tell
it?
you, yeah.
Loved it. Oh, you looked out and you could see all Priest Road. It was absolutely
But I
fantastic.
remember going over to your house and your mum, and she used to be out in the back peeling the potatoes.
Oh, peeling
and she'd
the-
be giving us raw potatoes too.
Yeah, we used to love it.
We
And
used to
raw
love the raw.
turnip.
We'd never get them at home in our house. We used to eat the raw
Raw
potatoes.
turnips.
Because we had a
Turnip
kind of a long garden at the back of
Yeah.
our house,
And
and
the
they used to
beautiful
grow.
strawberries. Yeah.
My mum and dad were very good. My mum was very good with plants. Daughter didn't inherit that, but anyway. But they grew every kind of vegetable.
Yeah.
They had potatoes. They had those beautiful peas.
Yeah.
And sweet peas. She loved
sweet
sweet peas.
peas.
She loved this. She loved
Yeah,
flowers.
lettuces, the little scallions, everything. Really, you go down to the Marian. We're having salad for tea. Down, you shake it off, wash it. Scallions,
They're a lot of work.
beautiful, and a few tomatoes. Then maybe growing or whatever. But we got the tomatoes.
And then tell us about when you ventured down around. 'Cause
oh, John around. Oh, yeah. John around was
You
great.
mean if we were allowed to
If we were
venture
allowed-
down around?
were you allowed first of all?
But never on the 15th of August, not outside the door. My mother, I think she thought that somebody was going to come
Run
along
away
and
with you,
kidnap
maybe.
us and run away
Yeah,
with us.
yeah.
But no, we were, yeah.
One
Other
of
times-
my first memories is going
Tell
down.
the story about the orange outfit.
I'll have to.
Yeah, you
We did domestic when we were at school in first. Where did we do domestic science? We were doing it in secondary school, and we had a fantastic teacher here, Mrs. Harper. She used to live over Atlantic View. Anyway, I decided that I would make a skirt. It was really nice. I really loved it.
Yeah.
It was an orange, kind of burnt orange colour, and a bolero. And it had a blouse that had a little bit of the orange, but mostly grey. And I thought I was the bee's knees. So, of course, went down around outside Freddy's. Freddy's jukebox was out the side.
Yeah.
And there was this fella come to shout out, "Hey, come here, orange, until I squeeze you." And I took the hill then off with me. Oh, it was so funny.
Oh, it was one. Do you know why I loved it? Patricia and myself used to go there. We used to go down, and I loved it because it wasn't local guys. You had
You did
any
bring to
interest
anything,
in.
yeah, to
Oh,
everything,
you wouldn't give
yeah.
them a
Of
look.
course, we never spent a penny down around.
No.
Well, no,
we
we
never
didn't.
had that
have it
no,
to spend
no.
it.
Well, it was nothing to do with money.
No.
You'd
No.
stand by the jukebox.
Yeah.
You'd know all the words of the songs and everything.
Yeah.
But other people, I think it was sixpence actually. I was talking to Freddie actually yesterday. But anyway, we went down. My friend Patricia and myself were having a sleepover in the chalet, at the back of the house. So for our pig out, as we'd say, we had a tin of pineapples and a packet of cigarettes.
Yes.
So
Very
anyway,
necessary.
we ate the tin of pineapples and we had maybe 1 or 2 cigarettes, whatever. So that was grand. It was about 12:15, and we had decided we were going down around. So anyway, we snuck out, jumped over the wall, and off we went. And, we thought we were wonderful. I'd say we were maybe around 14 at the time. So anyway, that was grand. Everything was fine. We were talking to a few guys around the jukebox or whatever. And you'd always be looking out to see if anyone had forgotten the few little pennies maybe that came out of the thing or whatever.
You'd give it a nod.
Yeah,
You'd
something,
give it a nod.
yeah. Anyway, Nicky Delaney. Nicky Delaney, they had the chipper down there at the time before Julie's arrived. And he reported us to my friend's father, who would be much stricter than my parents were. We weren't allowed to go down around for the rest of the summer.
I imagine.
Yeah.
We had the chairplanes down there, and we had the swinging boats.
Yeah.
Do you remember those?
Yeah, they were
That was about all the all the entertainment. I used to be green coming off it because they'd let you on for as long, but you'd be really.
Oh
sick.
yeah, it'd be
It'd be
brilliant.
so long. It was great.
Yeah.
And the chairplanes, no concept of insurance whatsoever. We'd be flying out. We'd be nearly.
That's right. Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
remember that?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I think.
And
that's
obviously you had an advantage in a way because you didn't have any relation to. In a way, I mean,
They were always coming, sure. Once you
But
see
you're
her in
very-
Tramore, they all came.
Yeah, but I mean, you must remember now that even still we're known as one of the Twomeys.
Oh,
You're one of the Twomeys, so I mean,
So word will get back.
there's no getting away from
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that you're one of the Twomeys. Like, so
Yeah,
that
you'd be
everybody
minded.
knew who we would have been.
And it was a very small place then.
It
Absolutely,
was, in
yeah.
comparison
Yeah.
to what it is now.
Yeah, everybody knew each other.
Yes.
Knew people
Yeah.
were-
I know when I was rearing my 5 children, we'd go over to the pier. I used to bring them over to
Yeah.
replicate what we had.
Yeah, yeah.
But you could sit down in the pier and I could get a swim because there was always somebody like Geraldine
That's right.
would say, I'll mind them for you
Yeah.
while you have a swim.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
they'd know.
No
Or else you'd
danger.
say to them, Welsh, young Welsh, get down off of that ditch. You know,
Yeah,
you'd be minding other
Yes.
kids
Yeah.
as well. You wouldn't be
you
letting
know them
them.
all.
Because
Yeah.
you'd know them all.
Yeah.
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 Geraldine used to do that for me. She'd mind my kids while I'd have a swim.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You know, we'd
Yeah.
keep an eye on each other's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you mentioned the 15th of August. So
Oh,
what did
gosh.
you tell us about the 15th of August? Like, what was so special about the 15th of August?
What-
A race week. and all.
Race week.
Race week, yeah.
Which was huge in
Huge
Tramore,
in
wasn't
Tramore.
it?
It was very, very busy.
Yeah.
The cars would be parked all the way across over Priest Road, the whole
Yeah.
way across Priest Road from the race, people going to the
To
races.
races.
Yes.
Dad used to bring us to the races in the car. Do you remember? He was the doctor for the race course.
And he'd be allowed to bring in the car.
In the
and
car.
as the car
And as many
would go in
people
with
as would
many
fit.
people as possible.
There was
So
legs, arms,
Yes, yeah, the boot and all.
everything.
Yeah.
out the
boot and
car.
all, yeah.
And we'd be all brought up to the race course. And
Yeah.
we had no mass on it. We were
No,
only going
no,
up and you'd
no.
watch all the horses. That was all.
And the clock in the centre, I used to love that. There was
Yeah.
a clock in the centre of the race course that there was
A mechanical thing,
a mechanical
yeah.
thing that ladies came in and ladies went out and umbrellas went up and umbrellas
But
went down.
yes, it was
Do you
very
remember
busy in Tramore. And,
Vaguely,
the 15th of August was the holy day, obviously. But yeah, we were never allowed out.
No,
on
outside the
15th
door.
because I think Mum had this idea that there were people
Strangers.
strangers
Strangers
would be
in the
coming
town.
into the town
Yeah.
and they'd be
Yeah.
ready to
But you'd
snatch
love
us.
looking at the style.
Yeah.
Now, when I say the style, it'd be a summer dress with a cardigan or something like that, you know. It's far more glamorous now, I think, the occasion. But I never really liked the race course. I have no interest in I'd be a bit nervous of horses now, to be honest. But once or twice recently in the latter years, we went up maybe for a ladies' day or whatever. You know, it's an opportunity to dress up, which is nice.
Can you remember what year was that man killed? The murder. Do you remember the murder?
Don't know, Mr.
Hunt, was
Hunt.
it? Was it out in by Bally? Not Ballykent. Where Barbara lives.
Oh,
Barbara-
the
Was it Hunt? Was his name?
Yes.
yeah,
I remember
by the grotto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
by
was
the
there was a
grotto.
murder in the town, and I remember the guards coming to the house and interviewing. We all had to be interviewed, and we had because Dad had the surgery attached to the house, so there was a waiting room and the surgery. And do you remember going in? And I remember the guards, and I remember thinking, how could they think that my father was after murdering somebody? It was horrendous, like this major thing that happened in the town.
Yeah, it was huge. at
Yeah,
the
coming
time.
in to be all interviewed, and everyone had to go in separately to be interviewed.
His
you know.
children are still here in the town.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it was.
it was a major event in the town.
And you always got a little bit older, we say, up around, you were talking about 14 or age group. about boys. Where was the place where girls to meet boys?
Oh, down around.
Oh, now we had,
With the silver
we
slipper.
had the silver slipper.
silver
that was
slipper.
our thing because it was
Yeah.
a disco. The Atlantic was slightly different because you had groups and that. It just wasn't the same. But I remember guys coming out from Waterford, and they'd be the only ones now you'd want to dance with. God help if any poor local fella would ask you. Not a hope in hell. But I remember very regularly fights, but fisticuffs. There was no knives or anything like that. And you'd see guys going in with maybe a nice white shirt or t-shirt, and he'd be covered in blood by the time.
What would we fighting over?
Oh, nothing. And maybe they might have one or two drinks in them or whatever. It was all quite harmless.
But the girls would see the Waterford boys as more sophisticated, would they? Or?
Well, I wouldn't
different.
say sophisticated now. That might be pushing it a bit. They just weren't the local stock. Nobody wants local stock. I ended up marrying one of them, so I better stick with
But there were different groups. We had a thing called Macronatuha, which is like an offshoot of Macronaferma,
Only it's for young people.
only for younger people. And we used to,
Mum,
yeah.
Mum was one of the
See, told you,
instigators.
she wasn't in one, she was in the other.
Yeah, she was one of the instigators, and she used to go down religiously and supervise.
There wasn't many places to meet. We used to go down to the cafe. Do you remember the Broadway cafe down there? It's now Misty's.
Oh, yes. And you might get a sundae.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had enough
Or a
money.
cup of coffee and 10 straws.
But I was just thinking about, sorry, I've just thought of a memory of a disco that we had in the school, in the secondary school, right? And even though now the locals would have a better cop on of what would be going on, but these would be supervised. And I remember this guy from Waterford asked me to dance. What am I going to do? Because they were actually going around with the ruler that you were
to see how
measuring the distance.
so that you weren't no close dancing.
Yeah.
A
No
ruler,
close
and
dancing.
of course I got tap on
Tap
the
on the
shoulder.
shoulder. You were getting too close.
We were dancing too close. Well, I was mortified.
Who was it, no?
Oh yes, there was a nun. I think there was a priest there. Could have been Father Ladan, was it? I'm
We
not
were
really
told
sure.
always to keep a plate between us and them.
Yeah, you had to have a respectable distance or whatever. But yeah, I was one of the people tapped on the shoulder
But
because
it's probably because you're bad eyesight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did wear
Nothing wrong with
no,
your
hang on,
hands.
I did wear glasses at the time, but believe me, they weren't on that night. I can
night,
tell
there
you.
you go.
I'd rather go blind than
There was nothing wrong with their hands, though.
no. And then we used to have the operas in school, which was fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
Gilbert and Sullivan. Oh,
We did a
my
fantastic
God,
teacher.
They
Yeah,
were
Sister
really
Madeline
Sister
was
Madeline.
great. She was the principal
our
of the
principal,
secondary.
yes.
And she was very much into musicals.
You'd know her. She was a great friend of your wife. What's her name? Bernadette.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was brilliant.
Yeah, she's left the order
She just
now.
absolutely
She was
loved
wasted.
music.
She did.
And she loved passing on the knowledge,
her love
her
of
love
music.
of music. And consequently, I think we all had a
When
bit of love.
we were part of this from the school. We were part of the church choir, and she took on the Hallelujah chorus.
And we all
actually
remember
sang
the
the
Hallelujah chorus.
Yeah,
She
so
was fantastic.
Yeah, she was.
She was into music appreciation and everything, and she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I ask the three of you about the role of women? Like, here we are now, 2018, and if you look back then, I mean, what was it like for women and young women, young girls and all that kind of stuff?
Well, personally,
our
our mother
mother
was
was an
definitely
exception. She was an
exception, wasn't she?
exception,
Our mothers
yeah,
were
not-
exceptional
not the
in the
norm,
sense that my
not-
mother would never allow us polish anybody else's boots because you could do it yourself. She was very proactive. So
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever. The only thing you'd notice, I would think, is when you left school as a female.
Yeah.
When you left school, you could go be a teacher, a nurse, civil service. Come on.
Secretary.
Secretary. And what else? There was only about 5 or 6
Yeah.
jobs. That's about it, isn't it? Teachers. What did I miss out? Civil service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's
you have-
that's
yeah.
about all the jobs that
Yeah,
you
that's
had.
it. Yeah.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
my daughter, she started in one career, has ended up in
Yeah,
a different
yeah,
one.
yeah.
And it's
No, the world's
continued.
their
The
oyster
education.
now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the fact that people can go back. Even if
Yes,
they're
that's what I
40,
love.
50, 60.
Yeah.
Sure, even the lads here are trying to encourage
But
us to
even in
learn
those
new
days,
things.
when we were young, mothers weren't working outside the home.
No.
the mothers, like you
Yeah,
had a
my
mum
mum
and
would
a dad
have
at
been
home,
now,
like you
wouldn't
never
have been
had-
like Mrs. Twomey. My mum never worked outside the home.
Mum never worked outside the home.
No, but she
was
was
always
involved
out, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
in things, is
Yeah.
what I mean.
She did a course
my
in,
mum
in
wouldn't be.
UCC as well. Like she did a diploma in social science. Wasn't
And I
it?
think the reason why, if you come back in Mum's history, Mum was in a house with three other boys,
Yeah, yeah.
and if the boys needed fags or Mum needed tights, the fags were bought, and
Yeah, yeah.
she wanted and had a thirst for knowledge, and she. My father encouraged her, and in
Yeah.
every way possible,
Yeah.
to make her do whatever she wanted to do. So I mean, it stems from the pair of them, the encouragement that we got. Isn't it
Oh,
true?
absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But my mum would have been the old-fashioned, you know, the homemaker, and always
made a
in
great
the
home.
home. Ah, no, she was. She
was
was.
lovely.
She was great. She
loved
was
Rivita.
great. Old Rivita, yeah.
Like, that's all I can remember
The
about her.
bingo, and
Where was the bingo?
the bingo.
Silver slipper.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Yes,
remember
I
him.
Silver
suppose it
slipper.
was the silver slipper, and then a bus used to come around and that.
They go into Waterford for that.
But my mum was very friendly with a woman called Mrs. Delaney. Now that would have been Delaney's, you know, Nicky that I was saying,
Yeah.
the chipper down there. And they always came to our house, right? And Mum would have tea for them or whatever. She had quite a number of women actually that used to come, and yeah, she was lucky. She had quite a good few friends actually outside the home. And I remember herself and Mrs. Delaney, a regular thing, would Friday, I suppose they'd have got their pension or whatever. This would have been, she would have been maybe
Pity.
in her 70s or whatever. And they'd get the bus into town and into Egan's. And yeah, she would have, yeah, Mrs. Delaney and herself would have the sherry. Yeah, the dry. I'm sure all the fellas in there, all the barmen knew them. Oh, Christine, Chris, you're in again. And I can't remember Mrs. Delaney's name now. But, oh, they were well known in there. And like my mother was not a drinker. I remember one time, as I said, we lived, my parents lived around Fenner, but every Wednesday and Saturday we went out to Fenner, to my two uncles out there. And we would walk from the house. It was a thatched house, beautiful, and they had their own well and everything, and there was a grove. And my uncle was a fantastic cook, absolutely fantastic. And the other uncle would run the farm or whatever. But anyway, we used to walk to the village, which was the pub, which is now there, and it's got a restaurant and everything there now, and a post office that was half a shop. So you'd get a treat in the shop or whatever. But anyway, we went into the pub this day, and my mother, I remember she had a tight skirt on her and a cardigan. And anyway, I think she might have had 2 sherries or 3 sherries or whatever. And I had my bottle of orange and crisps, and everybody be coming in. And because she was a local woman and had grown up there, they all knew her, of course, even though she had moved into Tramore now. But anyway, we went back to the house. We walked back, and she got a bicycle out. And up on the bicycle, but the skirt was so tight that she couldn't. So she went flying off the bicycle and was nearly killed off the bike. But all I remember her is lying down in the middle of the road, roaring, laughing her head off. But
2 sherry's gone to her.
yeah, the 2 sherries, yeah, or the advocate.
Yes,
Is it advocate? Snowballs
Yes.
for Christmas,
Yeah.
and the Bristol cream, Harvey's Bristol cream.
And because your mum was country woman,
Yeah.
and just even your own family were from Clare and all that, what about kind of superstitions and religious kind of people would have favourite saints or even the fairies? Was there any of that in your family background that you can remember? Any stories?
Well, I can, while you're thinking.
No.
No, because
Thanks, Marian.
Thanks, Mary.
Sorry. So my mum said that she
Well, I can't
definitely
remember.
saw the Banshee. The Banshee was, and the headless coach, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely. I heard her mentioning that quite a number of occasions. But people used to come to my mother and let's say you had warts on your hand or some kind of an ailment or whatever. They would come to Mum and they would ask her to buy them. and the money would cross hands like a coin, and she'd bury it for a week, and the worth would disappear.
So did she have healing?
No, I wouldn't say that,
No,
but
the
she
words would
probably
disappear
words would
anyway.
they
disappear
disappear anyway. But they honestly thought that she had something to do
cure.
with it. But she used to get, I wouldn't say she could see things, but she'd get a feeling if something bad was going to happen. Because I remember one time her sister, Auntie Julia, lived in London, and she was always very glamorous. When she'd come home, she'd have different clothes, and I used to love her coming home. But Mum got this awful feeling that something was going to happen or whatever. It was a Saturday, and she said, I can't get rid of this feeling. You know, she was kind of upset, but she didn't know why. And on the Sunday, she got word that her sister had been knocked down on the way to Mass. Yeah, there was a few times that I do recall. Yeah, she had a feeling, but she wouldn't have had a gift now. It was just something, you know, that she had. But she definitely said she saw the banshee.
And for a doctor's house, would that be all poo-pooed as regards all that kind of stuff now?
No, he was very much involved. Dad was very much involved in the church. Yeah, he used to serve, help. You know, in the summertime, priests used to come on their holidays, and in those days, a priest would have to say mass. He probably still has to say daily mass. And there used to be a whole lot of side altars in the church, you know, where a priest would say the mass, and like there could be 7 or 8 masses going on at the same time. Do you know? It's hard to imagine it now. But
in the old church before it was renovated.
Yeah, and he used to go up and he used to serve at the mass. So he used to go to mass every day, and he'd come home then from mass after mass, say 10:30, and Mum would have a cooked breakfast.
4 sausages in a row.
Every day for
Every
him.
day.
And 2 of the neighbours of my mum's friends, do you remember Mrs. May Welsh over the road?
Paddy and May Welsh. He used to work in them.
From South
Waterford.
Park.
Oh, yes, yes.
May Welsh and Mrs. Killeen used to come in.
Yes, Miss
And
Killeen,
they'd sit in the kitchen every morning after this.
Telling
Except
stories.
on a Friday, there'd be no fry on a Friday, except when Mum
Fish.
forgot it. And my father came in and he was tearing into the. He was very religious, but he wasn't going to tell her it was Friday. He still ate it, and then he told her afterwards. He said that was a lovely breakfast for a Friday.
Even though it's Friday,
But you had to fast before Mass.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
3 hours.
Oh,
Yes, an
yeah.
hour.
From the night
Was
before.
it an hour?
When we made our communion, it was 3 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, it was the night before,
I have
and then
to
it went
tell
to
you.
3 hours. And
Right.
then it went to
3
an
hours, yeah. 3 hours.
Do you remember the
We used to
time
have our breakfast after the
it was
communion.
Good Friday, and I think you said that you wouldn't talk until after 3 o'clock.
Oh yeah. Brendan used to do that.
Yeah, we used to stay
I
silent.
remember you doing. We used
Yeah,
to
we
be
had
trying to tease
religion
you.
would have been very important in our lives. Really,
Yeah.
I suppose we were all brought to mass every week. Like you went to mass, and
And would there be kind of a,
but there'd be
not
no
pressure, but
superstition.
would they be kind of delighted if one of you had been talking about joining the
nuns?
or
Yes, I wanted to be a nun.
I don't think that was ever an issue in our house.
We
were encouraged to do whatever
we
wanted to do.
If you're happy sweeping the road, was one
Yeah.
of my
If
mother's
you-
favourite sayings.
As
If
long
you're
as you
happy
swept the road and you were
And
happy
did the
doing
best
it
job.
and do
Yeah.
as good a job as you can,
and that's
it doesn't matter what
Didn't
what you
worry
do.
about what
Yeah.
we did.
Didn't matter.
I definitely, it appealed to me to be the nun. I thought it was fantastic.
Was it the outfit?
Loved the outfit, loved it. And Magdalene, you know, she was
Buxom.
yes. And then when
very old-fashioned word.
you know
I
when the
hope that
habits
doesn't
changed and the
Don't
little
say-
bit
put
of
that in.
hair,
Don't put that in.
a little bit of hair, blonde, little lovely, and we often
Oh, she was
wondered
fabulous.
what her hair would be like if we could see her without the veil, but we never did until the latter years.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know, that veil would be fabulous. So what we used to do was we used to get tea towels. And you put the tea towel on your head and you'd be going around like this and you'd have the rosary beads because that was their cross. Do you
Yes,
remember the
yeah.
cross, the brass cross that they'd have or whatever? And I thought, that would be fantastic. And then one day somebody said to me, you know, there's a Mother Superior. And I said, well, yeah, so what? She is the boss. She'll tell you what to do. You may have to polish the floors or cooking.
polishing the
I
floors?
said,
Yeah.
she might tell me what to do. And she said, yeah, that's what it's all about. I said, that was the end of my days. I said,
Yeah, she wasn't going to be subservient
thank you.
anymore.
I wasn't going to have anybody telling me what to be doing.
But
Yeah.
Sister Madeline was a particularly good nun.
She was way ahead.
She was way ahead of her
Oh,
time.
absolutely, yeah.
Way ahead of her
Patty
time.
May was
you remember-
lovely, though. We did
Yeah.
another
Do
lovely
you remember
nun,
the
Patty May.
the convent, the school that was over Newtown House? Do you remember? All
I
those-
don't
Yes.
really, no.
There was a school over there, and we
Oh,
never
the
really
girls
knew.
going to be nuns.
We don't know what
We
they
don't
were.
know
I
what they
still
were.
really don't know what they were. It was like
Postulants, I
we
think.
thought we thought they were orphanage, or I don't know what they were. But anyway, they used to be frog marched.
kind.
Yeah,
what do
over
they-
Priest Road,
yeah,
every morning
every
for Mass.
morning, yeah, for mass.
But they had some kind of an outfit, like a
They
veil
had,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah. But I don't ever remember anything about those.
Just
Yeah.
because, I mean, particularly like your parents and all that. But would you remember various interesting characters that were on?
Oh,
tonight?
fantastic.
When you were
Limerick Bill was
small.
one of my
Limerick
Bill. Oh, yeah.
favourite. Limerick
With the
Bill.
badges.
And Nicky Ann. Nicky Ann
Nicky
Power.
Ann, yeah.
Nicky Ann
Nicky
Power,
Ann.
yeah.
And,
Nicky Ann lived on down on Patrick Street, and he was very deaf, so he thought everybody else was deaf. So he'd be going up the street, and he'd be shouting, "How are you today?" And he'd be a fabulous character.
yeah, he was.
Really fabulous.
Yeah.
But my memory of him is I was fortunate enough to nurse him when he was dying.
yeah.
And it was a great privilege to do it. I even get a lump in my throat thinking of
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
And he'd say to me, he said, "Nurse, would you put a dint in the bolster until I put me pole into it?" So he could put his head,
Oh,
like
yeah,
he
yeah.
would go to sleep straight.
Yeah.
But you'd have to put a dint in the bolster, the pillow. You'd have
Yes.
to dig a hole in the pillow so
Right.
that he'd put his head into it, and then he'd go sleep like this.
Do you remember
Happy out.
Michelle, that other?
Yes,
I was just going to say
Michelle.
about Michelle, that's who I
Yeah.
was thinking. Yeah, he lived in the 24 to be called.
Yeah.
These are houses up from one of the schools, the primary schools, all recently renovated. Fabulous, actually.
Yeah, they're lovely.
Absolutely fabulous. But yeah, he was a bit of a character, all right.
Limerick
Michelle.
Bill, though. Limerick Bill. I can remember Limerick Bill. He used to sit down at the top of Galway's Hill.
Yeah.
And he obviously was from Limerick, but he was a travel.
He had all the
He
badges,
was a travelling
did he?
man. He had the badges all along
Yeah,
his. Yeah, he
tons
used to
of
love
badges.
collecting badges.
Yeah. Was there any women?
As a
I'm
nurse,
trying to
then,
think.
did you look after a lot of old people then around?
A lot of people went through my hands. No, that sounds funny. No, yeah, but you see, you can't really talk about it. But I can talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Nicky Ann because Nicky
Yeah,
Ann
yeah.
was such a character.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mentioning
Yeah.
the people that I looked after here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Naturally, yeah.
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 Okay, and then so other. Just trying to think of like. We mentioned dances. What else? What other memories do you have of growing up that you wanted to?
I when I think of my childhood, I think of the shops in Tramore.
That's all. That's
Yes.
Well done.
The shops in
She's
Tramore.
on the ball.
Yes,
Oh,
on-
listen.
that's why we brought her.
No, it's just. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
There was a man called Mr. Goodwin. Right now, there was the Goodwin family are a very large family. There's 14 or 16 of them or whatever, and they all lived in that house on the main street. Anyway, lovely family, really nice. One of the
They're all
family
here,
live, yeah,
they're all
live on my
in it, yeah.
road now at the moment. But
His
oh,
brothers and
We could stay here talking all
absolutely
day.
wonderful. The shops. Now, my mum used to shop in Matthews. Right, they were Protestants, weren't they?
They were. Yeah.
Yeah, not that
Don't
that
hold
mattered.
offence.
No, I just clarifying that. Husband and wife, and I think they might have had 2 daughters.
2 girls they had.
But I love, you walked into the shop, and then they had biscuit tins that were this size, and it was loose biscuits, and you quarter of a pound or half a pound, but
The tins,
you know what?
yeah.
Oh, beautiful! The Mikados, the Kimberleys, and they all
Go down to
tasted
your list and
fabulous.
you'd
You
buy
have
all
a, you'd
them.
have
Everything,
a kind of
oh.
a list, a regular list to go
Yeah.
down.
So Mum would go on a Thursday, and Margaret, Kylie, is it? Margaret Kylie worked in Matthews. This girl, had the most beautiful handwriting. So it'd be right at the start,
Copper-plated.
a pound of butter, pound
This
of
was-
sugar, whatever, the whole way down, and then the prices and the no calculators add up like that in their head, and then he had the meat. Now the cheddar cheese. I'm a cheese lover. The cheddar cheese was just unbelievable because it had muslin around it and it was about this size, and he used to cut it
with the wire.
with the wire, and it'd be put in the greaseproof paper, and you couldn't wait to get home to eat this cheese. It was just divine, and the rashers being cut and what have you.
And then you had Martin's next door.
Martin's was a treat.
That was great for sure.
Mr. and Mrs. Martin, they had one daughter, Mary. She lives
Still
in the
in
town.
Tyrone, yeah.
And it was,
A long
you
kind
got
of
the
narrow
books.
draperies.
Do you remember Mary?
Mr.
You got,
Cal.
Mr. Cal had the book
shop.
section, newspapers, annuals for Christmas. Bunty the Judy.
The Bunty the
Oh,
Judy.
yes.
The
And
Diana.
They'd be paying in on it. Your parent, like my parents, certainly. My mother would go down, put the Bunty away from me for Christmas, but she'd have to pay off, maybe start in November or whatever, and then you go to the men's section. Was next little turn,
yes.
and the men's section would be there.
clothes,
Mr.
clothes,
Martin,
clothes.
Mr. Martin would do the men's, and then the ladies. Do you remember Christine? No. Christine married to Tommy Farrell.
Oh yes, yeah.
Christine were, oh my God, she was beautiful. And if you were buying the nylons, the boxes would be opened.
boxes,
and
yeah, you'd have to
the
look around.
Oh my God, it was just fantastic.
But the other smaller shops now, there were ones like Flusky's. And do you remember do you remember going over on Priest Road? There was a shop called Flusky's, and
Yes.
there was another one called
Cusack's.
Cusack's. Tom used
Tom
to.
Cusack. He
the
used to ring the
ringer.
bell. He was a local bell ringer.
Sacristan.
But he used to ring the bell in the church. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
grumpy man.
But
Sorry.
we won't say that. But
Sorry.
we used to go up and get the ice cream. Do you remember she had a? And it depends
Oh,
on
yeah,
whether
Mrs.
she liked,
Cusack.
whether
Oh,
you liked her or not.
A
you see.
sixpenny ice cream.
A sixpenny ice cream. We used to. She had a
Marked
roller
out,
thing that
yeah.
had marked it out. You know,
Yeah.
it rolled on the block.
Yes.
And if she liked you, you got a little bit extra, and if
Yeah.
you didn't, you got a thinner one. You know.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
She was
You
great.
go for a half.
And you could name all the shops.
You could name the
You had to
shops,
get right on the
Then there was
Plus, Doherty's.
Lodges.
Lodges.
Lodges was on the corner where
We used to buy the
there's a
rope for
betting
skipping
shop
with.
there now.
for skipping
The
and the
rope for
windows that we
skipping.
used to break.
Oh,
And all the windows.
no, you're thinking of Lodges Hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was
was
on the-
thinking of Lodges.
on this side.
Yeah, the other side, the
Okay,
grocery
but
shop.
Lodges on two sides.
Yeah,
The hardware was
the
on one
grocery
side
shop.
and the grocery on the other.
We had an L&N as well,
Yes.
what we used to call the L&N, and it was on the corner
That's the
just
Chinese place.
where the Chinese is now.
Yeah.
And that too also had the biscuits, you know, in
Loose.
the
Yeah.
loose. You could buy your list
Yeah.
of biscuits loose. But you were always served. There was always...
But I'm going to tell you, I
O'Connor's
thought
Bakery.
when I tell this
And
to
Molly
anybody,
Bros.
they think
Molly
it's really
Bros.
gas. This Mr. Goodwin I was telling you about, the grocery.
Yeah.
Not grocery, but green grocers. And Mum would go down and she might be buying lettuce and whatever. And the lettuce would be wrapped up in newspaper
Damp
with the
newspaper.
string.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a gift.
Yeah.
And they would be delivered to your house with a boy, or I don't know who was the guy on the
delivery boy,
bike, you know, with the...
That
up
was
to
next
the
door
house.
to the forge. There was a forge there as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I remember that.
And then we had the milk, and you go in
Yeah,
for the...
you get the milk with the cartons.
Yeah,
But
with
your
the
dad used to deliver them.
Yeah,
the
my
milk as
dad
well.
worked on Morrissey's. Well, they owned it an awful lot of land now, Morrissey's. And my dad
That would
worked
have
on a
been,
farm
Michael
there.
Morrissey would have been the local
The local
solicitor.
Yes, that's
solicitor,
correct.
yeah.
And
His
I remember the milk. The milk would come home in a big churn. It could come home in a churn, and then you'd have the scoop or whatever. And then there was all the thing of, well, you know, should you really be drinking, as you said, the cow's milk or whatever, you know?
The loose milk.
But God, it was absolutely beautiful. But when we got the bottles delivered, you know, with the little tops, you'd have to collect them for
Straight
the
away.
little children. I
In
won't
Africa.
mention now, but you know, the children in Africa.
Non-nationals.
Yeah, non-nationals, yeah.
And just as children, like were you welcome in all the shops? Or were you
Yes.
scared of
Gosh,
them
yes.
shops?
No,
Yes.
no.
You'd go down
No.
with your list, and they'd take your list in.
Do you know what another thing we had in the
Four
town?
jigget chops. I
Oh,
can remember
jeepers,
getting 4 jigget chops.
we don't have
every
it
week.
now. Is a cinema, the Rex. Fantastic.
Your brother used to do the writing.
Yeah,
Tony used to do the
Tony,
writing
my
for it.
brother, Lord mercy on him. Tony, my brother worked there.
He did the ads.
Yeah, and I used to love going down there, and they had a sweet shop.
Across
And
the road.
I remember I used to have many a dream thinking, that's my heaven.
Lennon's. Wasn't that the small shop as Lennon's?
Oh, yeah, but that was,
Well, it was, no.
Yeah, that would be an experience.
Across the road, that was an experience. They Do you know the toilet outside there? It was about the same size. And they had everything in it, but you bought your sweets and everything.
Yeah, you took your chances, but who cared when you were young and you were in the cinema?
What do you mean he did the writing? What was that?
On a plate.
On a plate,
Yes.
yeah.
For ads, like for local ads.
Yeah, he used to
you
do
would have
those.
written it out, so it
Yeah.
would be projected out then.
It'd be projected and you'd read it.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
there
it
was the front.
great
There was
going
the
there.
oh god, there was fierce. There was fierce consternation.
there was
because
the cheap
There was the cheaper seats, and the back
benches.
seats.
They weren't seats, actually,
Sorry,
they
they're
were
benches
benches.
put together,
Yeah, and then you had the plushie.
They were called the pit, wasn't
and the pit, yeah, the flea pit.
Yeah, but that's probably all you could afford. You didn't care,
No.
you know. And then the people, or maybe the couples, might
What
be
about
in
Cunningham's
the back.
now as a shop? They were great.
Cunningham's
Mr. and
chips.
Mrs. Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham, they came from Meath and they had their own farm for all their, I think as far as I know, they had their potatoes grown up there the whole time.
They did.
But they were both, the husband and wife, the husband was very, very generous. The wife wasn't,
Oh, no.
she
Ah,
wasn't
well, now you
as
might get-
flahulach, but she
Yeah.
was still a generous lady. And we'd order, we'd maybe get one sausage, but then
Yes.
she'd always throw in a gual of chips with it, you know.
Yeah, just a few
Just
little
a few
extra.
chips, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wrapped up in
newspaper,
newspaper.
of course. No such thing as these fancy boxes now. Newspaper, and you'd eat them. The thing was to eat them
on the road,
walking
up the road.
street with the salt and vinegar.
And what about seasonal foods? Like, for example, do you remember fish and
Artichokes.
Oh, fish! You'd have
sticky apples and all that kind of stuff? Did you have that?
no, don't
No,
remember.
but I
sticky
can
apples.
remember my father decided one time, he was very adventurous. Like, do you remember the barrel of herrings?
I do.
Dad used to get paid sometimes not in with cash, but with food. And sometimes he'd come home with chickens, or he'd come home with whatever.
Or eggs. I remember my mum preserving the
eggs. We had preserved eggs, and
barrel of eggs.
he used to drop us out in the middle of the country to pick all the blackberries. You know.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? When he'd be going off working,
Yeah.
he'd drop us out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we'd be collecting them, and he'd collect us on the way back. But where was I going with that?
jam.
The soused
The
herrings.
soused herring.
We ate herring. I'd never eat another herring, but it's seasonal. We'd eat this. She mum tried every which way to cook it. But across the way from us there was a lady called Mrs. Swan, and she grew artichokes. Now, if I die, or I'm left on an island, if there's a artichoke on it, just
not only one of you will be surviving.
Disgusting. They're terrible.
Why?
Because mum tried to cook it every which way to try and
Yeah.
make us eat. Do you remember that?
What was the man's name that sold the mackerel every Friday? Murray.
Yes.
At the end
Murray.
of the road.
You know, the pier that we were telling you about. There were these men lived.
boat course, they
yeah,
call
they
it
lived
now.
there. They'd go out, and you'd have the fresh mackerel.
And you mentioned one other thing, which was about you mentioned the Protestants.
Yeah.
What was the relationship between the Protestant, because there's a lot of big houses out here,
Yeah, there is.
and we say the Catholic, or was there a relationship?
I don't think there was
No.
ever an issue.
No,
But we
wouldn't
thought those.
really.
do you remember when we were growing up? There's a house now in Ballycarnan that we thought was really the country. It was really the country. You know, what you call it?
Parkinson's.
Parkinson's. We thought they were
Yeah.
really out in the country.
Yeah,
and now
sure.
they're in the town.
It's on the
Well,
main
they
They're
were
in
though.
the
They were in
town.
those
They were
times,
they were
back
known
then.
as the country children
Yeah,
in a sense,
yeah,
weren't
yeah,
they?
that's
There's never
right,
any,
yeah.
the,
People
the,
farm.
the two
But there's
churches, they
never
always,
any
I mean, I do remember, like, if there was something happening in that
One church.
Yes.
We always
they
went
would be,
over.
they would be invited over. You know, there would be, like,
There was
the
no-
Protestant minister would have been well known to us, like.
Oh yes, he would.
Yeah, he would.
We would have known
Yeah.
him.
But we
because
wouldn't
he
have
would
had
been
anything
involved.
to do with
No,
them
not
really.
really.
No.
No.
But there wasn't a divide.
No,
No,
was
it
no,
wasn't.
no.
Oh gosh,
There
was
wasn't
none of that.
any
Just a
to us.
difference.
A
No.
difference, yeah.
No, there wasn't. No.
That's it. No,
Go on.
not really.
Anything else you want to
no,
ask us?
that's it.
No, I think we better stop there because we have to interview someone else.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So no. But otherwise, this is great. It was lovely.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's lovely to get an insight.
Sure, we were like little spoiled children here on the
Oh,
couch.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's nice going down memory lane.
Thanks very much.
Especially,
nice.
especially when the
When we
memories
know
are shared.
each other,
Yeah, the
we
memories are
would know
shared.
what we'd be talking
Where
about.
exactly did you live in?
We lived on
Do you know Priest Road?
Priest Road.
Yes. Where is that? With the Protestant churches?
No, that's
No,
Church
that's
Road.
Church Road.
The road going across.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
Priest
that's
Road.
Priest
Whatever,
Road.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Priest Road.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
we
as you're
lived on
going
Priest
halfway
Road.
across, there on your right hand side, as you're going from the Catholic Church towards the Protestant, there are three big houses. You come to three big houses together in a row. That's Richmond Terrace. Well,
We're opposite.
St Ledger Terrace
right
is right
opposite.
across the way. There are 8 houses going that way
Okay.
off Priest Road.
Horizontal.
We're
is
off-
that what you call it?
We're
yes,
off,
yes,
we're
yeah.
off Priest Road. which
Off
is
the Ducks Walk, where the
just
ducks.
before the- And Marian, our
It's just-
garden, would say in front
That's
of our
right.
house is Marian's house is on
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
at the end of the garden.
Yeah.
That's where Marian's
Yeah.
house is.
And do you know where you can cut down? Can you cut down?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
can.
called Ducks Walk
Yeah,
because
that's the Ducks Walk.
it
can.
was called the Ducks Walk because when it rained you had to go like this.
Yeah, it's
But-
very narrow. Now that's where we had all those beautiful. I was saying to you, the fields.
The fields,
and where
yeah.
Mr. Spencer had his
Tomatoes.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
You know,
I worked
so
down there for a while.
you?
Yeah, we used to separate the tomatoes, the buttons, the blues.
the buttons were fabulous.
Yeah, the buttons,
Tiny
the
little
blues,
ones,
and
sweet.
then the normal ones.
Yeah.
you took it.
Oh no, it was.
Go
It
down
was
there.
And I suppose it was easy to get part-time work out here, right?
Well,
we
we
turn
didn't
around.
work. Well, I would have said we
Turn
were
around.
volunteers. I suppose we used to go down, get
Yeah.
paid in buttons. Literally.
yeah.
You'd be going home
Yeah.
with a big bag of tomatoes.
I know. I worked down around. I worked for O'Reilly's. There was a little shop halfway down the prom, and I used to get £6, I'd say it was, which other people were getting maybe £10. But
You were
I
probably
had taken
underage,
that
yeah.
shop, but I used to get bars of chocolate and different things. They were, it was a couple, husband and wife actually that ran it. And then I saved my money to go to Wales.
we were
Yeah,
never encouraged
to work there.
I saved
My
my
mother used
money.
to say, we'd be working long enough.
Yeah.
Enjoyed her.
We used to go down. I was when I said I was working down there. I used to go down there and spend time
you were probably
helping,
volunteering.
yeah,
down
volunteering
there,
more than
Eilís
anything.
used to go. Mum used to go around visiting lot of the neighbours doing corporate works of mercy. And Eilís used to go as well.
We should have great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was great.
Anyway, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
it was great. Yeah, not at all.
Cheers.
It was lovely meeting
I think you know.
Yeah.